So hello and thanks for joining this webinar. So let's just wait a minute for all the attendees to join. And while we are waiting, can you just let me know where are you joining from? So I'm calling in from Zagreb, from Croatia, and if you can let me know just through a chat message where are you joining from, just to get a feeling on in which countries is this webinar interesting. While we are waiting for your answers, just a couple of notes. First of all, we are recording this webinar, and you'll be able to watch the webinar basically on the same page where you are basically watching this webinar now. If you joined through LinkedIn, then you will see this webinar recording at the same page where you actually joined now. Same thing on YouTube. So if you joined through YouTube, then you will see it on the same page. If you registered through Advisera website, if you're watching this webinar through Zoom, then we will send you a link through email to the recording after the webinar. So in any case, you will get the access to the recording. Second, you'll be able to download the presentation deck from this webinar, and at the end of the webinar, I'll explain how to access this presentation deck. So stay until the end of the webinar, and then I'll explain you how to do it. Good. I see some people letting me know where you are from. So Cyprus, Nicosia, Singapore. Okay, great. Very different places, interesting ones. Okay, great. Yeah, so let's start now with the webinar. So welcome to the webinar, ISO 27001 and ISO 22301. Why is it better to implement them together? My name is Dejan Kosutic, and I'm the main ISO 27001 NIS2 and DORA expert at Advisera. Advisera is a company that makes compliance easy to understand and simple to use. This webinar today is streamed through Zoom, LinkedIn live events, and YouTube Live, and it will last approximately 50 to 60 minutes, depending really on the number of questions you'll have. And yeah, I'll try to make it as interactive as possible, so please do send your questions, as many questions as you want. And you can actually ask your questions during my presentation. You do not have to wait for the Q&A session at the end. And yes, I'll also have this Q&A session at the end, so I'll answer your remaining questions at this Q&A session. Good. Now let's move on to the next slide. So basically, why is this topic important about this relationship between ISO 22301 and ISO 27001? This is because ISO 27001 does require companies to implement business continuity, but it does not really provide too many details. Later on in the presentation, I'll show you what are the three relevant controls, but these controls are not really they don't provide any more details. So it's good to have, I would say, some kind of guideline, so to say, on how to implement business continuity, and this is where ISO 22301 comes in. So the main point of this webinar today is to show you how this ISO 22301, the business continuity standard, fits into ISO 27001 implementation, so that you can actually implement both of these standards at the same time. And yeah, this webinar is basically intended for people who are beginners, who are doing this implementation of ISO 27001 for the first time. And I'll be using very simple language to explain how this needs to be done. Good. Yeah, so one of my main really points today is that these two standards are very compatible. So they have many things in common, and therefore they're really easy to implement them together, especially if you have ISO 27001 as a leading so to say standard, and then if you use this ISO 22301 as a kind of a plugin, if I may use this word, to actually cover the business continuity part of ISO 27001. Good. So let's move on to the agenda. Now I'll go through all of these. I'll present you these topics from the agenda, but just for me to get a better feeling of what you are interested in the most, let me know through a chat message which of these topics are you interested in the most. So just send me a message through the chat window, just again to get a better feeling, and then I can spend more time on these topics that you're interested in the most. Anyway, so what I'll go through this today is why implementing ISO 27001 and ISO 22301 together. So what is the basic logic? Or I mean, what is the basic reason why you would do it? What are the main similarities between 27001 and 22301? What are the overlapping areas? What does all this mean for the implementation? So at what time and what point, let's say, in the time, and what let's say step in the implementation of 27001 should you plug this ISO 22301 in? Also, what are some general challenges related to this integrated implementation? And of course, I'll end the webinar today with the Q&A session. Good. So let's move on with why would you implement these two standards together? So as I mentioned, ISO 27001 has these three controls which basically require you to implement business continuity. So first one is this 5.29, it's information security during disruption. 5.30 ICT readiness for business continuity, and 8.14 redundancy of information processing facilities. Now, I'm not sure if you are familiar with this controls. So I'll show you now actually a good resource on Advisera website where you can actually learn about each and every control. So let me switch the screen and show you. So this here, I'm showing you this big guide to ISO 27001. So basically this is an article which you can access, and we'll send you now a link to this article. Just a short explanation about this link. So if you joined the webinar through Zoom or through YouTube, you'll be able to click this link and it will open right away. Now, if you joined through LinkedIn, unfortunately, these links that we are sharing during the webinar are not clickable because of some limitations in LinkedIn. So the workaround for this is that you simply copy the URL if you're joined through LinkedIn. So simply copy the URL and paste it into your browser, and then the link will open. In any case, you can see now in the chat window this big guide to 27001 clauses. So basically just click the link and you will see the same thing that I'm showing you on the screen now. So why is this helpful? Because it shows basically each and every clause from the standard, and then shows you the explanation of it. So for example, if you want to learn what is this management review, you simply open it and it shows you, basically everything. So the basics, what is required, which kind of documents do you need, how you implement a particular clause, also what kind of audit evidence is needed. Now, if I go back to this article, you will see that it also shows all the controls, right? So amongst other ones are these 29, 30, and some others. So let me just show you, when you open any of these, let me show you how they look like. So for 5.29, here you see some basics. Here you see the documentation that you will be needing, and also some suggestions on the implementation and audit evidence. And the same thing for 5.30, the same thing for 8.14. So please do open this big guide, and it will be much easier for you to see really what is required by the standard. Okay, good. Now moving on with the presentation. As I mentioned before, these requirements are unfortunately pretty vague. So the ISO 27001 does not provide how to create a business continuity plan, or how to plan information security during disruption. It's very generic. And on the other hand, ISO 22301 which is the leading international standard for business continuity, does provide you a very detailed requirements on how to implement business continuity, including all of these things that are mentioned in ISO 27001. So this is basically why this is something that could be quite helpful. And we'll also share with you now the link to this free download. It's called clause by clause explanation of ISO 22301. So you'll see this is a white paper, and it explains, all the clauses from 22301, so that you can actually get a better feeling on what this standard is about. Good. Now let's move on to similarities between 27001 and 22301. So first of all, document and record management, or document and record control. So basically the requirements in these standards, and these are specified in clause 7.5 in both of these standards, they're basically the same, right? So if you already set up your document and record control according to 27001, you will be automatically compliant with 22301. So there is no, let's say, requirement. There is no need actually to create two separate procedures for document record control, because you can cover this with only one. And we'll also share now with you a link to an article which explains how to manage documents according to ISO 22301 and 27001. Second thing that is the same is the human resources management. So basically you have to define what are the needed competencies in 27001, and then define what kind of methods you will use to raise the level of competencies for your existing employees. And basically, exactly the same principle also exists in 22301. So if you use a procedure, or if you use, let's say, some kind of a process, you will use exactly the same document, exactly the same process for handling these things in both of these standards. The same thing for internal audit. Again, the principles are the same. Of course, the internal auditor might use a different checklist for doing the internal audit, but everything else is basically the same. We'll also share with you now the article called ISO 27001 Internal Audit, the complete guide, where you can actually see everything that is relevant for internal audit. Management review, again, the requirements are almost the same. They're not exactly the same, but very, very similar. So again, the same process can be used. You can actually perform the management review at the same time for 27001 and 22301. There is no need to have two separate management reviews. So you can do this pretty easily. We'll share a link which is called for an article that is called Why is Management Review Important for ISO 27001 and ISO 22301. Exactly the same requirements for corrective actions. You can use one procedure for both of them. You can use the same form for corrective actions and so on. And also the same requirements for setting objectives and measurement. Again, the same thing. So you can use one system or one process for setting up all of these things. So the point being is that once you implement all of these things for 27001, again, you will be automatically compliant with all of these areas for ISO 22301. So you already have this integration, right, between these two standards. So basically you already have a basis for your integrated management system. Okay, on the next slide, let's see the overlapping areas. First of all, risk assessment. So both standards speak about risk assessment, require risk assessment to be performed. However, there are now some differences. For example, ISO 27001 requires, there are very detailed requirements in 27001 regarding risk assessment. Whereas 22301 is pretty, I would say, vague there, so it doesn't really tell you much about risk assessment. It does say that you need to perform risk assessment, but it doesn't say how. The second overlapping area is incident management. Now, the situation here is different. ISO 27001 is rather vague. but ISO 22301 is much more precise on how to handle incidents, excuse me, especially the larger significant incidents. So what does this mean in practice? If you integrate these two standards, then you can actually perform risk assessment according to the requirements, according to methodology based on ISO 27001. And again, you do not have to perform two separate risk assessments. You can perform one, but you can basically follow the requirements from 27001, especially because, you know, risk assessment is about finding what impact will have, let's say, of some kind of an incident to your confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So in information security, both of these, all three of these aspects are relevant. So confidentiality, integrity, availability. Whereas in 22301, you're focusing on availability aspect. So my point being is that you can use one risk assessment that will cover both of these standards, because the information security already covers availability, and this is the basis for using one risk assessment. When it comes to incident management, it's better to follow the requirements and the guidelines from 22301, because again, it's more detailed, and you can learn more on how to handle incidents there. Okay, we'll share now two articles that will help you with risk assessments. The first one with risk assessment, so it's called ISO 27001 Risk Assessment, Treatment and Management Guide. And the second one is how to handle incidents according to ISO 27001 Annex A. So you'll see also some suggestions there. Good. Now, let's see how does this reflect in reality. Basically, how do you actually, you know, think about implementing these two standards together? First of all, if you consider ISO 27001 as the main standard, then you should consider this ISO 22301, the business continuity part, as a sub-project of your ISO 27001 project. In other words, you basically focus on implementing ISO 27001, but you basically go towards ISO 22301 only where you have to implement these, I would say, core business continuity elements from ISO 22301. Now, these core elements from ISO 22301 are basically the business continuity policy, the business impact analysis, business continuity strategy, business continuity planning, and exercising and testing. So basically these five are the core elements of business continuity. Good. And in the next slide, I'll also show you one diagram where it's easier to understand, you know, once I show this visually. Okay, you should also appoint a coordinator for your business continuity. And, you know, especially if you're a larger company, like a couple of thousand employees, typically you will have a business continuity manager separate from CISO or Chief Information Security Officer. However, if you're a small company, typically these two roles are merged in one person, and this is a CISO or someone who is performing as a security officer. So again, depending on your size of the company, available resources, you have to decide, you know, if you want a separate person to have to be in charge of business continuity. But in any case, there must be someone who is really in charge of or coordinating business continuity activities. Also, the project team. Typically, if you already have the project team for ISO 27001, you will use the same people as the project team for business continuity, because again, it's a very similar project or sub-project, and therefore it's the best thing really to use the same people. And the same thing for senior management or sponsor from the senior management. It should be the same person who is the sponsor for information security and for business continuity. So this is in general, you know, how you really how you configure, so to say, this project for 27001 and 22301. Okay, I think we have a question here, so let me try to read it. Okay, Alan is asking, are you able to share links to case studies or exercises on ISO 27001 to train internal stakeholders? Okay, so I can actually share with you an article which explains, how to perform ISO 27001 risk ISO 27001 training. Basically it's how to organize this training if you want to comply with ISO 27001. And there is also a tool on our website which you can use to organize a company-wide ISO 27001 training. The tool, this is a learning management system. It's called Company Training Academy. And basically what you can do is we'll send you also the link now to this Company Training Academy where you can organize these trainings. So basically you simply select, let's say, a training program for 27001, and then you define which the stakeholders in your company have to learn about and get trained about 27001. Then you can, select, I don't know, IT employees or members of the project team, or I don't know, members of a particular department, and so on. So it's very easy using this tool, and you'll also see a free trial, so you can simply sign up for a free trial, see how it works. Good. I don't see any other questions coming in, so let me move on further. Good. So now I'll show you very simply, in a very simple, let's say, diagram, how this project, how you should organize this project. So first of all, you start with some preparation phase where you define who is the project manager, who is the project sponsor, project plan, these kind of things. And then you basically move on to the planning phase. And this planning phase should be done according to ISO 27001. And here you do this top level information security policy, you do this risk assessment, these kind of things. And then you move on basically to the do phase. And by the way, these plan, do, check and act, this is for those that you are not in the ISO world. Plan, do, check and act is, I would say, the basic concept on how you actually organize and how you build a management system, and it's applicable to any ISO standard, so ISO 27001, ISO 22301, ISO 9001, and so on. So as you see, we go with this planning phase, and then we go for the do phase. Do phase is the implementation phase, and then check and act phase is, I'll come to this later on. So anyway, in the do phase, implementation phase, then you actually focus on information security, and this is where you implement, I don't know, network security, the operation security, physical security, the legal controls, all the things that you have to do, but you also implement the business continuity controls. Now, you do this, all the other things do according to 27001, but these business continuity controls, you actually comply by implementing these core business continuity elements from ISO 22301. So again, these are top level policy, business impact analysis, business continuity strategy, business continuity planning, and exercising and testing. So basically this is what is prescribed by 22301. And then you move on to this check and act phases. Check and act phases are basically the internal audit, monitoring, measurement, management review, and then corrective actions. So again, here you use ISO 27001 as the main way to implement the standard. And basically this is it. This is, in my view, the best way to organize the project, which is, again, mainly focused on 27001, but you actually plug in 22301 in this implementation phase only for these business continuity elements. Good. Okay, we'll share with you now this a couple of links. First, the link will be about ISO 27001 implementation guide. So if you want to learn more details, you know, on what are the detailed steps in the implementation project, then you can take a look at this article. And the second link is about the mandatory documents for ISO 22301. So if you want to be fully compliant with ISO 22301, then you can see in this article what are the mandatory documents. Good. I'll show you now how this looks in practice. So basically, you know, how you can actually organize these steps and what the documents might look like. So let me just switch the screen. Just give me a second, please. Okay, where is this? Okay. Good. So what I'm showing you now is this documentation toolkit for ISO 22301 and ISO 27001. So basically, this is our product. And here you actually see all the documents that are needed for 27001 and for 22301. So I'll open a couple of folders, show you a couple of documents, and you can also let me know through chat message if you want to show me a particular document. So for example, let me see. Yeah, and by the way, these are the steps in the project, right? So if I open any of these folders, you will see simply the documents in these steps. But let's go for this NXA control. So you will see several policies and procedures what that are needed for ISO 27001. Like for example, I don't know, mobile device teleworking and work from home policy. When I open it, you will see a template. Let me just put it on the screen. And yeah, there you have the template with you know, all the things that you need. Of course, you can adapt this template since this is a Word document. And you also have these comments which actually show you and help you fill these things out. Okay, going back here, I don't know, access control policy, you know, similar format of the document. Of course, the content is different. So you can see, you know, the user definition of user profiles, privilege management, these kind of things. Okay, going back, let's see some of the business continuity documents. So I go for this folder 10, core business continuity documents. And there you can see this business continuity policy top level document, then business impact analysis, business continuity strategy. As part of this strategy, you have these appendices that define recovery time objectives, and so on and so forth. So you also have, I don't know, disruptive incident scenarios, business continuity plan with all the appendices, disaster recovery plan, of course, and then exercising and testing plan. So, I don't know, business continuity plan. And there you can see, you know, the content of this plan here. Yeah, and this is a pretty lengthy document, but in any case, yeah, it's something that is needed to be done according to 22301. Good. Now let me go back to my presentation. Yeah, by the way, we'll send you now a link to this page where you can see the details of this ISO 27001 and ISO 22301 documentation toolkit. So you can take a look, and you will also see a preview of each and every document on this page. So if you decide to take a look, you know, you will actually be able to see part of these documents. I mean, each and every document from the toolkit, but not the whole document, only a part of it in the free preview. Of course, if you're already our customer, you're able to use all of these templates. Okay, there is one question that came through LinkedIn. As we implement it as one project, what about alignment objectives? So I'm not sure exactly what do you mean by alignment objectives, but basically both ISO 27001 and ISO 22301 require you to create objectives for, you know, information security for business continuity. And you do not have to align these objectives directly. You could have two sets of objectives separately. So you could have, let's say, information security objectives, and you could have business continuity objectives. So basically, you can have these as two separate set of objectives, and this is perfectly fine. Of course, some of these objectives are for both business continuity and information security. So for example, you could say that Your general objective is to, let's say, recover from any kind of, I don't know, incident within, let's say, I don't know, 24 hours. So this kind of a general objective, you know, is valid for both information security and business continuity. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. And this is about implementation effort and for certification. So I would say that when you think about ISO 27001, you know, and if this is your main project, then the additional effort for ISO 22301 would be maybe 20, maybe 30%. Okay, if you go actually for the full, you know, if you want to be fully compliant with ISO 22301. Again, most of this compliance with ISO 22301 will be covered already through 27001, as I already mentioned. So, you know, document control, internal audits, management reviews, you know, monitoring, measurement, all of these things are basically already covered through ISO 27001. So what is, you know, out of 27001 are these five key core elements of 22301. And this is something that you would have to do extra. So the point being here, you know, it's kind of, it's not like you have to implement completely, you know, separate standard. You can actually, you know, by focusing on these five core elements, you can actually be fully compliant with 22301 with only 20 to 30% of extra effort. So it might make sense really to you know, go and you know, go for these two standards basically for some additional effort. Okay, a question coming in from 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗀𝗶𝘀. Is it possible to demonstrate that you use custom controls separate from ISO 27002 controls in the statement of applicability? So two points there. So first of all, ISO 27002 is a separate standard from ISO 27001. So 27002 is a standard that provides you guidelines for implementation of controls. Now, what is important to remember is that 27002 is not mandatory for compliance with 27001. You can get certified as a company against 27001, but you cannot certify against 27002. What does this mean? This means that, you know, once you start implementing 27001, you can, if you want, use 27002 as a kind of a guideline for implementation, but you don't have to, right? So this is the point. 27001 is mandatory. 27002 is not. It's only a guideline. It's something that you might use if you see this fit. Okay, now if you want to use controls that are not listed in 27001 or 2, because they have basically, you know, the same controls, but 27002 has more text for each control. So it's, of course, it's possible. So you can add on top of these 93 controls, you can actually add your own controls, right? You can use some other standards, I don't know, some you know, NIST standards, or I don't know, you might actually go for compliance with DORA or NIS2, and then you want to add some other controls which are not listed in 27001. So the answer is yes. On top of these 93 controls in the statement of applicability, you can add your own controls if you see these controls as something that is useful for your company. Okay, good. Yeah, we'll also share now with you a link to this article on how to get ISO 27000 certified, so you get lots of information there on the certification process. Good. Now let's go through some challenges. What are the key challenges when it comes to this integrated implementation of 27001 and 22301? And yeah, I received these inputs from you through email, so thank you for sending these challenges, these inputs, and yeah, I try to kind of select the ones that are the most interesting here. So the first challenge was senior management support and lack of resources, and I mean, this is really I would say a typical challenge in any project, not only project related to 27001 or 22301. And the way to address this problem is really by, I would say, presenting. It's basically about making your senior management interested in completing this project. So if the senior management sees a very concrete benefits out of this kind of implementation of 27001 and 22301, then they will support your project and they will give you resources. If they don't really see some benefit, of course, they will not pay attention, and then you will have problems with financial resources, with human resources, and so on. And if you want to get their support, then you have to present a concrete business benefits for your company. And typically, the biggest business benefit is that you can actually get new clients, or that you can keep your existing clients. So there is a direct revenue that depends on this kind of a project, and this is the argument that senior management will listen. So you have to find a business reason why this kind of a project is important in order for your senior management to listen. Okay, lack of people to implement the project. Okay, providing that your senior management understands the importance, you have to be very clear on what kind of human resources you need for the project. So it's not that a single person can implement the whole standard. It doesn't work like this. So you have to include several people from your company, and of course, once you establish all these policies and procedures, then your employees will have to use them in their every basically day-to-day operations. So all of these things you have to explain to your senior management so that they understand what kind of human resources are needed and why they are needed. So again, it's a matter of communication and presenting what is important there. Lack of expertise. Yes, so very often companies do not know the things, the details about the standards, and I mean, it's normal. I mean, these things are very specific. It's not part of some general knowledge, and the best thing is really to send your employees to training. We already sent you the link for this product, for this learning management system, which is intended for, I would say, training and awareness for a wider range of employees in your company. But also, if you want to educate some key people about these standards, then you have to send them to courses, to education. And we'll send you also now a link to courses, ISO 27001 courses on Advisera website. And there are basically 4 courses. There is this ISO 27001 Foundations course, which is used for, let's say, typically project team members. There is this ISO 27001 Internal Auditor course, which is used for internal auditors who will perform the internal audit. There is also this lead auditor course, which is primarily used for auditors, but there is also the lead implementer course, which is used typically for, let's say, the main person in charge of the implementation or for security. So you can use these 3 or 4 courses for educating your main employees in the company, and of course these people can get certified as well. So you can see now the link in the chat window where you can see all of these 4 courses. A good thing is that actually these courses are free, so you can attend the whole course without any payments. What we charge for is only if you go for the exam. So if you don't need an exam, you can go through the whole course for free. Good. Now, another challenge is that each standard has its own documentation requirements, potentially leading to excess or conflicting paperwork. So actually, this is not really directly true. So basically, it's again, if you integrate all of these things that are exactly the same, if you do not write 2 separate procedures for internal audit or 2 separate procedures for internal for management review, and so on, then basically you will not have this excess in conflicting paperwork. So you just have to know, what are these overlapping areas, and then simply create 1 document instead of 2. And then aligning different risk assessment processes. So again, of course, you could theoretically go and do 2 separate risk assessments, but this is not necessary. It's simply, you know, matter of basically doing 1 risk assessment for information security and business continuity, and this is it. You simply have to, I would say, write this methodology for risk assessment in such a way that includes this availability aspect from business continuity, and then it's I would say pretty easily done. Okay, good. So these were the challenges, and yeah, let me move on to the next to the conclusion, and then we'll go for the Q&A. So, as I already mentioned, you know, if you actually decide to go for ISO 22301 on top of ISO 27001, it will be roughly 20 or 30% of extra effort. So it might make sense, right? You will get 2 certificates basically for the price of extra 30%. So it might really make sense to go for this kind of a step. And of course, for that purpose, you can use also Advisera's 22301 and 27001 documentation toolkit. And we also already sent you the link to this toolkit, but we'll also share now with you this link to schedule a call with our toolkit expert, so he can actually show you any document that you're interested in. And basically it's something that you can learn, and you can also use the same link for scheduling a call if you're interested in this learning management system where you can actually train your employees, your workforce for ISO 27001. Good. Let's now move on to the questions and answers session. If you have any questions, please do send them via chat, and I'll gladly answer anything that you're interested in. And before I start answering these questions, just a couple of notes. So first of all, you can contact me directly if you have any questions. So we'll send you now the link. It will send you now my email address where you can actually ask any questions. Also, you can follow me on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and there you will find lots of useful tips and videos. So for example, on LinkedIn, I regularly post the most important news from, let's say, security governance world, from cybersecurity, from let's say these around these standards and everything. So if you want to kind of keep in touch with the news about this cybersecurity and governance world, you can follow me on LinkedIn. On YouTube, I publish lots of videos around ISO 27001, NIS2 and DORA. So if you're interested in these frameworks and cybersecurity, then you can actually watch these videos, because you can learn very easily with this kind of visual format, right? And on YouTube channel, you will also see this a secure and simple podcast. So this is a podcast that is specifically kind of made for consultants and also for security officers. So if you are acting as a consultant or a security officer, you might actually take a look, because there are lots of interesting interviews. For example, my last interview was with 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and this is he's a country manager for PJR. PJR is a certification body, and he gives his views, on the trends with various ISO standards, including 27001 and 22301. So take a look at this podcast, and it will give you, I would say, a fresh perspective on this ISO world. Okay, third point, I wanted to and by the way, in the chat window you can see all the links to this LinkedIn and YouTube and my podcast. And the third thing is that my next webinar, next Wednesday, will be on how to use ISO 27001 to implement DORA and NIS2. So DORA and NIS2 are 2 new cybersecurity regulations in Europe. and I'll explain there, how to connect or how to make it easier for you to comply with DORA and NIS2 with ISO 27001. And you'll also see in the chat window the links where you can actually sign up for upcoming webinars on LinkedIn or YouTube, also on Advisera website. So whatever of these you choose, you can actually sign up. Okay, basically these are the announcements. Let me see questions that are coming in. So, okay, I see a question from 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗶𝘀𝗀. What is used to demonstrate information security readiness in business continuity scenario in combining the two standards? So let me see if I understand the question. What is used to demonstrate information security readiness in business continuity standard in combining the two standards? So basically, you have to assess if your information security is basically compliant with all of your policies and procedures. So basically, this is what you assess if you want to be compliant with ISO 27001. So really, the readiness concept is not something that is, I would say, presented as a requirement in 27001. So when you do, let's say, an audit of ISO 27001, then you see if you're compliant with all of your policies and procedures around, again, access control, backup, network security, whatever you have written down. Now, when you speak about business continuity, then yes, there is this concept of basically readiness or resilience, if you want to take a wider look at this business continuity concept. And basically the way to test your business continuity, if you are ready to respond to an incident or if you're ready to recover from a disruption, basically you do this through exercising and testing. So the way to find out if you are basically to test your business continuity readiness, you do this through exercising and testing. And yeah, we'll send you now the link to this article, which speaks about how to organize ISO 22301 exercising and testing. And there you can actually learn more on how this is normally done. So in a couple of seconds, you will see also this link to an article in the chat window. Okay, let me see if there are any other questions coming in. Okay, if not, I think I answered all of the questions. So then let me wrap up the webinar. So let me just go for the last slide. So just a few words before we finish. So as I mentioned, this webinar today was really too short, really to go into details of the implementation steps, these kind of things, and for that purpose, of course, you can read these articles that we've sent you, and also you can go for these courses that we've sent you these links to. And yeah, regarding the PDF presentation deck, so what we will do is we will publish the link. So if you joined the webinar through LinkedIn or through YouTube, we will publish the link to the PDF presentation deck in about 10 minutes on the same page where you're watching the webinar now. So what you can do is simply, leave this page open for maybe 10 minutes and then come back, and then you will see this link for downloading the PDF presentation deck from today's webinar. What you will also see are all the links from today's webinar. So all of these, I don't know, a couple of dozen links that we shared today, they will also be in this page where you joined the webinar today. So and it will be actually all of these things will be displayed in the comments section. So simply go for the comment section. You will see all the links from today's webinar, including this PDF presentation deck. Now, if you joined the webinar through Zoom, then we will send you an email by tomorrow morning with all of these links, and again also the link for PDF presentation deck will be included. And finally, we'll also send you a link for the short survey, and I would really appreciate if you have time to fill this out. So it's only 3 questions, and it gives me really a good idea on what I have to improve in the webinar. So I would appreciate if you could fill this out. And this would be all. Thank you very much for your participation, and I hope you have enjoyed this webinar. Have a nice day.